Hello, hello. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We have something very special prepared for you today. Let's face it, social media is here to stay. It's a means of communication and identification. Not only is it here to stay, but it's also become a huge platform for marketing, business, networking, and revenue. We have gathered the best of the best from Twitter and Instagram to answer our most burning questions. Sit back, grab a pad and a pen, and be prepared to leave the session more social media savvy and with a defined direction for you and your brand. So please welcome to our session on personal branding. My name is Shameka Jennings. I am the principal and chief events officer of Events Noir, and I'm thrilled to be moderating this session today. I personally love personal branding. I love social media, and I'm actually super excited because Twitter and Instagram happen to be my favorite social media platforms. So I'm excited to be here with our main speakers today, Brittany and Dave. So please, I'm going to welcome them. Applause in the chat. Applause in the chat. Brittany is currently, she serves as the head of athlete sports talent partnership for Twitter. She oversees all sports talent relations, ensuring the most influential personalities in sports create compelling and memorable activations on Twitter, driving innovation conversation and content across the platform. Prior to Twitter, she spent 5 years overseeing PR and communications for Settle Sport, one of the largest sports nutrition companies and the parent company to the Muscle Milk brand. Her work encompassed brand launches, global product launches, athlete relations, sports marketing, corporate communications, social media management, influencer marketing, and lifestyle activation. So I promise she knows her stuff.
Shameka, you make me sound a lot cooler than I am.
You're like reading that. I'm like, I need to get my life together. I'm like, where's my pen and pad to make sure that I have my social media together? Because she knows her stuff.
Listening to someone read your bio is incredibly awkward. So I can't wait to watch Dave's face right? As you read his.
I might jump off a video for this part, yeah.
His is also amazing. Dave is the global head of sports on Instagram. So he oversees strategic partnerships across the sports ecosystem, including athletes, leagues, teams, and media. In this role, he is responsible for advocating on behalf of the sports industry inside and outside of this organization, continuing to build Instagram as a great home for sports. It's 500 plus million sports fans on Instagram who enjoy sports content on the platform and the partners who use Instagram to engage and delight their fans every day. Prior to Instagram, Dave was Complex's first chief of staff and also held roles at Whistle Sports, Google, and YouTube. So please welcome our two fabulous speakers who are going to really kind of outline how we can kind of continue our longevity using social media as our personal brand, right? So hi guys. Embarrassed enough? Did I get you? Did I cover everything in your bio?
Well, that's the part that they should have taken notes on. So they can put away their notebooks and pens. That was what they needed to take.
That's all you need to know.
Oh, that's it.
Really, we're done. Yeah. That's it.
I don't know if anybody needs any career guidance. Not that I have any, but clearly based on my trajectory, it's just go follow where they give you free food. So that's what I've done. Advice. It's a good rule of thumb.
Oh, I absolutely love that. So guys, we are here with hundreds of our closest friends. Like these are my new best friends, by the way. And we're adding you all to that circle of former players with the NFLPA for their summer getaway. And we're here to talk
about
OGs. Yes, right.
Respect the OGs.
And I'm like really excited to talk to you all about social media because hopefully, as OGs, I know you know what social media is, but how social media savvy you may be. You know, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You got it. We know that you probably have Twitter and Instagram downloaded on your cell phones right now. You can pull it up. Yeah, we hope. So to start, I want to ask you both, can you tell us a little bit, like just the basic functionality and the basic features of your individual platforms that you run and how it relates and how people are kind of utilizing those for social media currently?
Sure. Dave, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I would say at the heart of how our users, our creators, our partners use Instagram and how we think about building for Instagram is all about expression. And one of the various kinds of expression that we have heard, that we have observed, that we've been told individuals want to have in order to express themselves safely, positive, build their communities, engage their friends and family. And so it's truly a sort of a choose your own adventure when you're on our platform, thinking about the ways in which you do want to express yourself. It can be, hey, I want to jump on a live chat and I want to just broadcast myself to the world, bring people into my live and have a real time discussion. It can be Instagram stories, which we know is really the backbone of how a lot of athletes use our platform, because it's lightweight, it's ephemeral, it's interactive. You can engage with your fans, you can ask them questions, and it doesn't feel like you need to produce anything, sitting in front of a camera or creating a video. Feed, IGTV, these are for more video focused content, but again, just another way to express yourself and get your message, get your commentary out to your fans and on various parts of our platform. And then last but not least, being Reels, which is definitely more of the creative bent of how can you participate in the culture of what's happening on Instagram. Maybe it's even more musically oriented, participating in trends, challenges, etc. But there is no one size fits all for every individual. And so as we think about how do we build our platform for you, it is truly how can we unlock ways for you to express yourself authentically, and that's comfortable for you in the ways in which you want to talk to your fans and the ways they want to talk to you.
I love the point that you made about there's no cookie cutter way to approach one specific platform versus the other. So Twitter is public conversation. You are out there speaking in conversations with different communities, sometimes to yourself. That's totally fine too. But we view the platform as public conversation. So it's constant, it's real time. It's like a river of words and GIFs and images and memes. And I think the most important thing about Twitter is the real time of it. It's that place where you all feel like you're in the same moment at the same time talking about the same thing. And I think that's one of the biggest, most impactful pieces of when we talk about live tweeting is you literally feel like you're all in the room, whether you're across the country or, during pandemic times, everybody was in their own homes, but you could go to the timeline to feel like you were together. I think the timeline is probably the most important place to start with Twitter, whether it's live tweeting in real time, whether it's commenting with, some of your other influencers or former players or current players. There's so many ways that you can utilize the platform in depth, but then also more on the surface level based on what your comfort level is. And I think Dave made a really great point of there's ways to approach social media and there's ways to approach Twitter based on your comfort level. And there's tools and there's features and there's safety features and there's tips on how to best customize that experience for you. And that's what my job is to be that resource for you, for athletes, for other sports personalities to know that, hey, you've got a human being at this tech company who is there for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, raise his hand, that's me, to just help you customize and make sure you learn whether you're in the Twitter 101 or whether you are the most, savvy user who's, making mega bucks off your content, or you just want to be relevant again when we talk about career longevity. So you have human beings at tech companies. There's a lot of cool ways that you can customize your experience on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and just know that you guys have resources on the platform and then in the office as well.
Yeah, and to what Britt said too, I love what she mentioned about, whether it's the real-time live conversation, just the idea of feeling connected. I think we all felt a need and a desire during COVID times, which is still not over, to feel connected to our friends and family, to feel connected to our fans, and even for the athletes who are listening to this, to feel connected to each other, because we know that social conversation is happening on Twitter and Instagram. It's one of my favorite parts of using both platforms, especially Twitter, is the ability to engage with each other. And so at its very core, how are we enabling you to build your community, to engage with each other, to feel connected when you're not in the same physical place, or as Britt mentioned, when you're watching the same things or following the same things that are happening in the real world, and being able to discuss those things in real time on our platforms.
I think one of the key tidbits, hot takes, hot tips that I can even provide is staying culturally relevant in what the conversation is. You don't have to pigeonhole yourself into talking about just football or just the position you played or the score of XX game. There's a whole scope of conversations out there. And if you can find something that you're interested in, maybe you're not comfortable talking about football. Like those days are over. You're like on a new life path. You want to be a dad, or you want to be a gardener, or you want to work in the front office, be CEO of something. There's other conversations. And so chiming into those conversations and building that network is also a great way to utilize all platforms, because it does give you the opportunity to take yourself out of just being an athlete or just being a former athlete, and really opens up this whole world of different audiences for you to connect with.
Yeah, and even in terms of examples, one that comes to mind, albeit outside the realm of the NFL, but with the NBA, I mean, look what Dwayne Wade has been able to do, leveraging his social media presence well beyond his playing career, right? Obviously, he is married to a public figure himself, but he's got a very diverse family. He has other pursuits far beyond the realm of just basketball. And you could argue some of those pursuits were able to come to fruition because of him presenting, expressing himself on his social media, and that goes far beyond the realm of just playing basketball and being attached to the NBA. So as you all are thinking about what you want your social media presence to be, as Britt mentioned, football is one of the many things, many topics, many interests that you may want to share about, and it's also probably one of the many that your fans are interested in. They might be interested in a lot more about you and your family and in your life than just what you've done on the field.
And gardening, could I have come up with something better than gardening? Like, who does that? Like, hey, we want to know what flowers you're planting this week.
So I don't do gardening. However, I definitely admire people that do. So I would be super interested to find out one of the former players does gardening. That would just be such an interesting thing. Like, oh, I would have never thought that together. However, you bring up an interesting idea, because to be engaged, you have to kind of share a little bit about yourself. But at the same time, you want to kind of provide boundaries with your followers. So can you both kind of talk a little bit about how can you kind of give just enough without giving too much, without giving too much access to your private life?
Britt, do you want to take this first, or you want me to take it?
Yeah, I'll run with it. I think the most important piece is knowing yourself and knowing what you are comfortable with. And even if that means writing a list of, I'll talk about this, this, and this. I won't talk about this, this, and this. And I think it's really important, because people will see right through conversations where you're very inauthentic, or you come across as not being comfortable with speaking about something. So I think it's important to recognize who you are and who you want to be on the platform, and then make a plan and decide who you're going to be talking to, what you're going to be talking about, and the messages that you want to portray. And I think, Shameka, you do some incredible work with personal branding, and so I would love to even hear your tips and tricks, because I know that you've worked with a lot of brands and athletes and can provide probably some really great expertise on what you've seen previously.
Oh, shucks. Yeah, I would love to share, because it is something that I'm personally passionate about, and especially getting people to kind of dig deep into who they are. And so you kind of bring up a good point that I will want to ask all of you, but I'll speak on it first, is creating that social media plan. How do you do that? And I think the first thing that really, when you are looking at trying to create a personal brand for yourself, you really kind of want to ask yourself, what is it that you want to be known for? So we already have you all, you are football players, you have had a successful career within the NFL. And what is it that you want to do next? What is it that you want to be known for? And kind of create a plan based on that. So like Britt said, what are the topic areas that you want to focus on? I personally love to do SWOT analysis or analyses of myself. Kind of have what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What opportunities are available to me, so that I can share more with myself, share more of myself with my followers, and also potential brands that I can connect with and monetize as well. So I think that's really important, starting with in doing your personal branding, just research, and then having a good understanding of who your audience are. They're people that follow you because they enjoyed watching you play. they have some sort of connection to you, whether it be you, the team that you play for, having a good understanding of who they are and what they want to hear from you, what can you add to their lives and how can they benefit from you, are some of the pieces that I would kind of recommend when you're diving into your social media plan, but also trying to create the appropriate boundaries. I'll pass it over to Big Friend, and he had some thoughts as well.
Yeah, I love what both of you said, and I think for me, one of the words that comes to mind in hearing both speak is intentionality. And this thing is not all science and it's not all art. It's definitely a mix of both. But you can be quote unquote scientific about your approach. You can be intentional. You can really actively think about and write down what you want this presence to be and what are the things that you care about or are interested in. And then there's an art to it as well. But ultimately, your social media should be a representation of yourself. You're not interviewing with press. You don't have a microphone in front of your face. This is truly what you want it to be and how you want to share more about yourself with the world. So I think being intentional and really having a plan in your head of what you want to make this, and even the goals that you might have for your social media, whether it is gaining new brand partnerships, whether it is driving social impact or charitable good. But as Britt and I have shared in previous panels, at the end of the day, there is such value in just asking your fans what they want to see and what they want you to show them. And granted, you don't have to listen to all their recommendations, but you can interact and have a two-way dialogue with your fans and prospective fans that will give you ideas and help you even set some of those boundaries or guardrails that Shameka and Britt mentioned, because you may not be sure what you're comfortable or uncomfortable with, but knowing what your fans want and being able to better understand that and maybe even shape your approach on social media can be inherently valuable. And that's one of the things that I've heard a lot, especially in the rookie classes, where there's maybe a question of, how do I get started? What do I think about? And it's like, well, get a piece of paper and start writing stuff down, and then poll your audience and ask them what they want to see. Those are two really good starting points and ways to give yourself a framework as you think about what you want to do and how you want to express yourself.
And I think something too that gets lost and people forget about is that social media is meant to be fun too. So you can't just completely go overboard and over analyzing like this, and this, and this. Like, have fun with it too. Like social media, especially Twitter, like there's, like I said, GIFs, memes, jokes. It's very playful at times. And so make sure you don't lose sight of having fun and having fun with your audience, but also having fun with yourself too.
Yeah. To Britt's comment, I mean, if there is one thing that we all need to be keenly aware of when it comes to audience on social media, it is they are incredibly intuitive and savvy when it comes to understanding when you have the keys to your own account and it's you behind that camera, or when you've given it to your agent or publicist and are just posting stuff that doesn't feel like it's real. And they have such a keen perception of that. And you want to come off as, again, being yourself, having fun, as Britt mentioned, and truly feeling like this is what you want it to be. So yeah, just not a cautionary tale per se, but making sure it really feels like you, because that's exactly why these fans are coming to follow you, is not because they're going to get the interview that you're doing after a game. They want to get all the goods behind that. They want to get you talking to them directly. And how do you take advantage of that?
No, I agree. I think what Britt said also kind of resonated with me, and what you said about intentionality. The word that comes to mind for me is just authenticity. Like, you really want to just be yourself, because the fans are already there. The followers are already there because of you. So keep doing what you're doing, right? You've already done something right. So as long as you continue to be true to who you are, and then, add a little bit of pizzazz, share a little bit about yourself that they might not know. So like, if you do garden, show some pictures of your flowers.
That's gonna come up this whole conversation, isn't it?
I'm gonna be like, I want to see some chrysanthemums out here. Like, yes, but share. It would be it's so interesting to see the celebrity, the person behind that, right? We want to see who you really are, or as much as you're willing to share. And so I think that's super important when it comes to your social media and who you are. And I'll also just add, like, how I try to track my social media, because we were talking about social media plans. Like, I start really small. I'm absolutely fabulous. I'm still trying to build myself up and build my personal brand. Like, so to track my social media plan, like, I actually just use an Excel spreadsheet. says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at the top. I have the weeks on the side, and I might do the hashtags because that's also an easy in where there's daily hashtags you can Google and search, where it might be like Motivation Monday. So you can easily put out a motivational message or a quote, something like that. That's an easy go. We have Thirsty Thursdays where I can share like my favorite drink and I'll put a recipe to it because that's on brand for me and who I am, and like everything in between. And so like to start small, finding like some things that you can easily insert yourself and insert who you are into those beings, but just the plan is just as easy as a pen, paper, Excel spreadsheet, and just write it out. That's the most important thing about all of this is having a plan.
My
Go ahead, Dave.
sorry, no, I was just gonna say my personal feed is full of pictures of craft beer. So Shameka, I think I'm gonna have to start following you and jumping on this Thirsty Thursday train after this call's over.
I'm definitely working that out. I'm a craft cocktail type of girl, so that's where if you want some, I think I'm making that a thing.
Perfect.
I blew it. The gardening, I blew it. I will say, and this is something too with a lot of the folks and athletes, especially former athletes or those that have been more, I guess, experienced in their career. One of the easiest ways to also build your following and just put yourself out there visibility wise without having to create your own content all the time is simple engagement with your audience or with fans. Liking a tweet, liking an Instagram post, retweeting something, adding a comment, send a reply. Those go so far in folks knowing that you are there and you are real and you are paying attention. This is like my favorite cliche of all time. And I don't know if I started it or if I like stole this from somebody, but a retweet or a like or some sort of engagement on social media is bigger and more impactful than an autograph these days, because the first thing that fan's going to do is screenshot that and then retweet it or repost it. And that's so meaningful because that's that personal connection. And so simple tip, man, just go through your timeline, go through your feed, like the post you like, search for dogs, whatever it is, but you'd be surprised at how far that will go with just a simple liking, commenting, engaging that way.
So that is not a lie at all. I just want to insert. So I don't even know how to tap into outside of football. I absolutely love football. I'm a big WWE fan. Like I'm a nerd about it. And I don't know what happened, but John Cena started following me, and I was like, oh, I was so excited. I was like, it made my life. I liked, post, retweet. I retweeted it. I put it on my Instagram. I put it on my Facebook. I shared it everywhere. Like it meant a lot. And I always like every now and then I check to make sure he's still following me. So don't unfollow people unless they're no, definitely didn't mean a lot.
To your point, I mean that's. He's probably cemented you as a fan for life, and you're going to share that with your friends and family, and they're probably going to be even more interested in him as well. And I think that's how this whole thing works, right? I mean, there shouldn't be this inherent pressure on any of these platforms to feel like you're the only one who has to generate something, right? There is a culture, a conversation, as Britt mentioned, especially on her platform, but on Instagram as well, where you can simply participate. And I think that's actually a big part of why fans come to our platform. It's not just to feel like, okay, this player is broadcasting something and I'm just going to be reading it as if it's news. It's okay, I'm getting to see this dialogue. I'm getting to participate in this dialogue. I have an example personally of a college basketball writer who I love, who responded to something I wrote. Made my year probably when that happened. And that's the kind of thing that can happen that feels great on social media, and also for all of you on this call, interacting with each other. I mean, I look at it on Instagram, especially in the high school sports community, where a big part of the special sauce of social media is you all taking your conversations into these forums and people being able to observe how athletes interact with each other, and some of the great, fun, lively conversations and examples that we have of when that plays out on social for all of the fans to see and enjoy and even participate in. So take advantage of that, and don't feel like you have to generate something out of thin air just to be relevant or meaningful on Instagram or Twitter.
It's a great call.
I love that. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but there's going live on Instagram and also live tweeting. That's ways to kind of engage with your fans and engage with your followers. Can you talk about a little bit about like why it can be or should be part of social media that our players can do? and the benefits of it.
So I'll go first, if y'all don't mind, about live tweeting specifically. I think connects you in that real time, which is the bread and butter of Twitter, right? Real time conversation, real time connection. My favorite example to use is when The Last Dance aired during the pandemic, and we were still in early pandemic times, pandy times, if we want to go that route. Nobody could get out, right? Like nobody could watch this together. Everybody was like stuck at home, like scared, like nobody had that sense of community. We created a watch party on Twitter. And essentially we said, okay, everybody, we're going to watch this together. We're all going to tweet at the same time. We're all going to use a specific hashtag, and we're going to all pretend that we're in each other's living rooms, sitting next to each other, eating our Chicago style pizza and talking about this. And it was one of the most impactful moments, I think, of my Twitter tenure, just because we actually created something that people needed, and they felt emotionally, because they couldn't be together, right? So it built that sense of community. And so I think that's the power of live tweeting specifically, if we want to talk about tweeting in real time. Whether you're watching a game, Sunday Night Football, whether you're watching a hoops game, whether you're watching the NBA finals, whether you're watching what's the big Westminster dog show that's like takes over social media there for like a weekend. It's like top trending, there are so many people having that same conversation. And so that's one of the ways that, again, you don't necessarily have to go out and create all this content. You can just participate in creating the content with the folks who are already talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I completely agree with Britt. And I feel like live has always been this sort of thing on social, Twitter, Instagram, et cetera. But it really became even more of a thing during COVID, when we didn't have that personal connection, when a lot of you didn't have the ability to engage your community in person, your fans, et cetera. And it continues to be a great way to engage your fans and just have some fun in real time, nothing produced, just, sort of being you in front of your fans and potentially with each other, whether it's, again, live tweeting or whether it's having live whiffs on Instagram where you're coming in and doing a broadcast with somebody else. Heck, even bringing your fans into your broadcast. I mean, what better way to make a fan's day than have them be on screen with you at the same time? So I think there's a number of innovative ways to leverage live, whether it's as casual as, what we've seen for even far beyond the days of Twitter and Instagram, where, you're on the couch watching the game and maybe you just want to flip that live button on and just give some real-time commentary and discussion about what you're watching. Again, it can be in the form of what you're doing in live conversations on Twitter. It can just be you in your iPhone, clicking the camera on and logging on to Instagram. The one cool thing I will say about just live in general, and again, in the interest of expression, but also this sort of mantra that we have at our company of how do we enable you to bring your fans closer into the things and people they love. And I continue to be inspired by the ways in which athletes, former athletes and otherwise, want to bring their fans closer to the things that they may otherwise not be able to experience. And so as an example, like I'm a big sports fan, as you can imagine, since I'm in this role, but Manny Machado is one of my favorite baseball players. He brings his fans in live after they win the NLCS a few years ago when he was with the Dodgers. And you're getting a chance to see a celebration, not through the eyes of a cameraman, you're through the eyes of the player who's celebrating. Dwight Howard during the NBA bubble, and when they won the championship with the Lakers last year, you get this exposure and the serendipitous moment that is going to just draw fans in and feel like they are getting a front row seat to not even the game itself, but to everything that the athlete is seeing through their own eyes that they want to share with their community. And so that, I think, is part of the special sauce as well of Twitter and Instagram, is being able to do that and have the fans feel like they are literally as close as they can possibly be without being there physically with you in the room.
Ooh, preaching now.
So
speaking with all the fields, I got all the fields now.
I know. So, can I safely say or safely assume that the lives are kind of like live tweeting and going live on Instagram are your favorite features and the most unique feature of your individual platforms, or is there even something even more that players should be taking advantage of? So not only those, but there's something else that's like a secret sauce.
I think live tweeting is great. It's not the end all be all, because clearly not everybody can be somewhere all at the same time all the time. I think it's one of those things when a big moment happens, it's important. But I think I'll go back to using GIFs and memes. I mean, I think that's always been like such a fun way to communicate and like share your thoughts and feelings. But I do feel like even in the last year and a half, that has become like a central part of Twitter, like conversation. Like if you can say it in your favorite GIF and meme, like that's the way people are talking now. And so I think that's probably one of my favorite use cases of Twitter specifically, is people that can communicate in those playful ways. We also launched a new audio community feature called Spaces, and it's been something that our team has really leaned into from the athlete and celebrity angle of creating these spaces, that's why we call it spaces, of groups of people that can come together and have conversations, real-time conversations, but you're hearing voices. So there's something special, really special about somebody's voice. And, you know, right now I'm seeing you as you're talking, Dave and Shameka, but when you're just hearing someone's voice, there's just something that's like a little bit more powerful and you feel connected. So we've created this audio commentary feature that we have just seen a lot of success with, a lot of adoption, engagement's been through the roof, because it's a very low key lift for folks to just be like, hey, let's talk about this podcast that I just recorded, hop in. And so it's another take on live. It's just in the form of audio, which is, you know, if we want to talk about trends on social media, I think audio right now is probably the hot ticket.
Yeah, from an Instagram perspective, I mean, I truly believe athletes and stories on Instagram is a sort of a match made in heaven, because again, it feels low pressure. It feels like it's just, again, generally like point, click, shoot, engage your fans. I love the interactivity features because it allows you to maintain a relevancy and consistency without feeling like you've got to have that 7-day schedule that Shameka mentioned, like completely programmed and with a bunch of different types of content. Stories can really be very simplistic yet incredibly engaging. Reels, which is our relatively newest feature, I think it's an interesting one because it enables you as an athlete to actually sort of witness and observe and then participate in the culture of what's happening in real time. I mean, obviously very similar to what Brittany mentioned around like going through your feed and your timeline on Twitter and just seeing what's happening. For us, that is definitely Reels. What are the challenges, the trends, the ways in which people are expressing themselves that might inspire you to do something similar? The one thing that is sort of in a different realm of our platform that I consider absolutely a favorite feature, and that is our charitable good tools and the ability for you to generate fundraisers and the ability to deliver social impact and deliver well-being, as I put it, in the communities and causes you care about. And I know Britt and I and Shameka know how important a lot of those things are to players, both during their professional careers and maybe even more so after they've moved away from the playing field and are pursuing other endeavors. But our platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, et cetera, can be incredibly pivotal in supporting those kinds of causes. And obviously we'll share resources after the fact, but I think being able to leverage our platforms to drive the kind of impact that you want to drive after your playing career can be substantial. And so would highly encourage the folks watching this to explore those tools.
I think you raise a really great point, and I want to dive into that a little bit more about leveraging social media to kind of enhance your brand, enhance your community service, but also like enhancing partnerships. So can you both talk to some best practices that you have seen just on your platforms through athletes and figures that you work with or that you follow, or really anyone that you've seen done well, what best practices exist?
Yeah, so I think from a Twitter perspective, you know, obviously folks want to monetize through social media, as you should. There's ways to make it very organic and authentic. And I think that would be the number one piece of advice I would say is instead of checking a box from a contract of post one, you know, tweet or one post of, you know, this hashtag ad, find a way to really integrate that into the use cases that you actually use that product or that brand. I mean, you're with a product or brand because you want to be, or because you use that product. Find a way to incorporate that into what you're posting so that it is very authentic. I think folks are savvy enough, your audience is savvy enough to know when it is a sponsored post, right? So find a way to make it fun and more relatable versus it just being something that they're going to scroll through and be completely bored with and bypass, because folks know, like, there's an understanding. Everybody knows, users know, you're obligated to do certain social obligations. However, folks are a lot more willing to accept those and pay attention to those when they know that, hey, at least you tried to make it sound fun, right?
Yeah, and from my end, I don't relinquish, I guess, don't relinquish all creative control to the brands that you're in partnership with or who want to be in partnership with you, because ultimately, I don't want to say they will be doing you a disservice, but you are the ultimate arbiter and protector of your personal brand on and off social media. And you are also subsequently the person best equipped to inform the brand how you can express yourself in an authentic, credible way that furthers those brands' objectives. And so be mindful of that, because again, you're the one who is crafting your strategy. You're the one who knows what your fans have an appetite for and how a message or a narrative will land. So absolutely take advantage of that. The one thing I will say on the behalf of brands you'll work with is there are tools on our platforms, be it Instagram, Twitter, et cetera, where brands can amplify your content in a way that will enable you to reach new prospective fans. And so there's obviously sort of some technical nuance there, but it is well worth your time to have those conversations with any brands or potential sponsors, et cetera, that you want to work with around what are the levers that you can collectively pull that are going to get your message out to the fans who love coming to see your content every day, but also new fans that haven't yet been exposed to your personal brand, but who might end up following you and engaging with you longer term.
Yeah, that's a great call, because you put some resources behind your post to get it in front of a new audience that can be more valuable sometimes than that money in your pocket. And just keeping it real, like, that goes a long way in long-term visibility. Definitely take advantage of that. I was also going to say, Dave, excellent points on, like, being the creative driver. You don't just have to do silly, simple posts. Like, get creative. Like, instead of doing, one post, say, you know what, I'd love to do a Q&A, and let's find a way to incorporate, the brand or the product into this, like, really fun Q&A with fans and users, so that it's more fun and engaging. Or, do some sort of live activation or fun activation. There's always ways to be a little bit more creative with those kinds of sponsored plays as well, so that it's not just posting, tweeting, hashtag ad.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I'm sure Brittany has seen, the appetite for the audience to receive that content goes way up. The more creative and genuine it does feel. So yeah, absolutely keeping that in mind. And not for nothing, I mean, you have a resource with the PA and obviously the folks in this call to help steer you in certain directions, or at least give you some insight on the things that we have seen. The PA is, I believe, still responsible to help you grow your brand and flourish far beyond the realm of just your playing career with the NFL. But the more they know about you and your interests, the more about your interests and in expectations and wants that you're sharing on social media, that in of itself is a way to potentially generate new opportunities. So again, whether it's the gardening example, Britt, we're not going to go away from that one, or whether it's the craft beer example I use, which probably is not safe for certain audiences. But the more that we're expressing ourselves and that you're sharing more about yourself, the more sort of serendipitous opportunities may occur, and leverage the resources and people behind you who, with the more they know about who you are and what you're interested in, the more opportunity they're going to be able to potentially bring to you.
No, I agree. And I want to also echo that point of making sure that people really just know the work that you're doing. So connect with NFLPA. And I got connected with NFLPA through a few different facets, but I also got connected with the DC former players chapter. And so if there is a local chapter that you are connected with, get involved with them, connect with their social media platforms as well. Make sure you're sharing their content, they're sharing your content, so that you're continuing to amplify the work that you're doing and amplify your connections and potential new followers. But I do have a question for you all, because I know for me, I hear this a lot. I can't monetize or have that engagement without a large number of followings. But I know I've slowly realized like that's not always true. Sometimes the engagement is important. So can you talk a little bit about the difference between the engagement versus number of followers?
Yes. So engagement is measured by, I guess I'll speak from a Twitter perspective. Engagement is the number of folks who have actually liked, retweeted, quote tweeted, or clicked on if there's media in that tweet. So it's actual audience and user activity to that specific tweet. So you may have a following of say 500,000 people, but if your engagement rate is like 0.0001%, your audience is not as valuable as somebody with half that following who has a greater engagement percentage. And brands and companies are savvy enough now where it's not just a numbers game when it comes to following, it's an engagement game. Following still plays a role in some decision making from their standpoint, but it's quality over quantity, I think, in this day and age. And there's very simple ways, and we've talked about a lot of them, that you can grow your following in a very organic way, simple way. But the key thing is you don't want to be posting to a silent audience. Like, you want people to engage and interact with the content that you're putting out there, whether that's just words, whether that's a photo, whether that's a video. And I would encourage folks to, there's tools on the back end of Twitter where you can actually look at your engagement metrics, you can look at your impressions, you can look at when what time of day is my content most engaged with. And so you actually have some back end resources through your Twitter account directly where you can kind of strategize about using some of those metrics to kind of help dictate the direction and the roadmap you take your social plan. So I would encourage you to understand what the differences are between engagements and worrying more about not just numbers of followers, but actually how many people are paying attention to you and clicking into what you're putting out there.
Yeah, that goes a little bit into the sort of, again, science versus art of it all, is using those insights to understand, where you can make improvements, tweaks, optimize your approach on social. I don't want to call followers a vanity metric, but it's the most basic way to judge someone's sort of relevance on our platform. And it's absolutely the bare bones minimum that a prospective brand who you want to be in partnership with will look at to assess and evaluate the value of said partnership. And engagement is definitely a very critical component of how these brands think about engaging in certain partnerships with certain athletes. I mean, there is the one side of, okay, we want to be in business with X, Y, and Z because they are relevant, they have a great name, and are aligned with our brand and its values. And that's sort of the one piece of it. And then it is, okay, what are the key performance metrics in ways in which we are evaluating how successful a program or campaign will be with this athlete? And that goes, again, far beyond just, well, he's got 1 million followers, so we're feeling pretty good about this. And so the more you can engage your fans, show that those are fans who are going to show up and watch and consume and share your content on a regular basis that's organic, they're clearly going to have a confidence in you that when you do branded or sponsored content, that same behavior is going to exist. And for content creators who are not athletes, but who are really building their entire businesses and livelihoods on our platforms, that engagement piece is front and center for them, because they know that's a selling point with brands they want to work with, is that, hey, it's not just a big audience. It's an audience that comes here and wants to really dive into who I am and what I'm posting. And so thinking about that as you want to build out this part of your business, so to speak.
And while all engagement is in theory good engagement, what are some ways, what's the best way to deal with negative engagement or negative feedback from followers? Because that tends to happen as well. People do love to kind of just share their mind,
Yep.
One may have asked. What's the best way to deal with that type of feedback? Because we don't want all of our engagement to be that, right? So how can we focus that?
The struggle is real sometimes, and I think we're the first, as the platform, we are the first ones to recognize and acknowledge that this happens and it sucks, and we're doing everything we can from a product engineering standpoint, from a health and safety perspective, literally from the top down of our company. The health and safety of the platform is our number one priority. And again, real talk, like this happens. There's tools that you can use to mitigate, whether it is turning off your notifications, whether it's muting certain accounts, whether it's blocking certain accounts, whether it's just having these tips and tools at your disposal on knowing how to turn things off. I think there's also, we were talking earlier about, well, how do you just ignore the noise? And a lot of it is noise. And that's where you come into deciding, you know what, I am just not going to engage with these kinds of conversations. There's some athletes, there's some people who are like totally cool with it and stoke the fire and have their Kevin Durant Twitter fingers going wild. But there's also folks that are, the human side where they're just like, yeah, that's just not me. And so it's really helpful to understand, one, from a Twitter perspective, like we have your back. We clearly understand that this is something that happens, and we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we're providing the best and healthiest and safest experience that you can possibly have. And we're totally willing to share some resources on what some of those actual tools within your Twitter account look like, but then just some anecdotal tips and tricks as well.
Yeah, I feel like we're talking to the people who have built a entire life around how to be able to effectively block out the noise, and sometimes that's easier than others. You all have played in front of stadiums of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, and been able to effectively block out the noise. On social media, it presents a little bit differently, but we want to make sure that you feel like you have the tools and resources available to control your own experience, and above all else, have a safe and positive experience on our platform. I know I speak for Britt when I say that your well-being, that your ability to express yourself safely and in a positive way, and have that kind of experience on our platforms is totally front and center. And we also know that there is another element of these are public forums, and as a result, public figures, athletes, entertainers, etc., are subject to more criticism and commentary than the average person, like the three of us on this call. And so, what is acceptable within the realm of this is a public forum versus what is completely inappropriate and our platforms don't accept. I don't want to reuse the term choose your own adventure, but I think for Britt and I, what I want to impart to you is you have tools available to control your experience, and whether it's turning off comments entirely, which I know is not necessarily that great of an experience for you because you do want to hear from your fans, even if there are some naysayers in the audience, whether it's restricting who can message you so that you can filter out the noise in your DMs. I know from an Instagram perspective, we're releasing a new tool that will allow you to filter out certain words that hit your DMs, so you never have to see instances of racism or abuse in your DMs. And we'll be rolling that out globally, hopefully over the next month or two. Exercise those tools to the extent that you want to control your experience. And again, I think all of us know you want to have an open dialogue with your fans, but you also want to make sure that the people on our platforms who are breaking rules and going above and beyond to take down what you're trying to do and detract from all the great things you're doing on our platforms, how can you get rid of engagement with those folks? And Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, et cetera, we do have that available to you.
Well, we're coming up on the last few minutes of our time together, which I'm super pumped. This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you both. To wrap it up, I guess I want to ask, what is the one takeaway that you think the players should have when it comes to social media and their personal branding? If you could tell them one thing to leave this session with.
Go, Dave.
The one thing, well, I do want to reemphasize the well-being piece again, and just making sure you familiarize yourself with our safety tools, because we can't necessarily do that for you, but I do want you to know what is available to you, and we can always follow up with more materials, reach out to you, the PA, to ourselves, because I want to make sure you feel empowered and equipped to control your experience. The one take I would say is don't get paralyzed by, again, overthinking what you should be posting and is it going to be polished? Is it going to be the thing that I want it to be? Just just start doing and start building a habit, a consistency. Because I think the worst thing you could do is give your audience the perception that you're off and on and on and off again, and they don't know what to expect. And that is part of your value proposition of engaging your fans, that you are going to be there and you are going to be present. I mean, consistency is legitimately part of the social media one-on-one playbook before platforms like Twitter and Instagram even existed. And so it almost feels like overkill, but I can't reemphasize it enough. Whether it's creating the plan on Excel that Shameka mentioned, or just having in your mind that, hey, every Monday after Monday Night Football, I'm going to jump on Instagram and Twitter and I'm going to have a dialogue with my fans. You're building a habit, you're building a consistency, you're building an expectation for your fans that they'll be able to come back and get that time in and time out. And that will have them coming back for more, certainly.
That is great. Great insight. I'll go back and say, have fun with it. Enjoy it. Know that this is such a great opportunity for you, from a career longevity, from a monetization standpoint, but have fun with it. I think at the end of the day, like, it's a great tool, but it's also something to have fun with. So that would be my takeaway. Also, I guess 1A, my number 2, you have to keep it real. Like, that's just the way it is. The name of the game for social media is keep it real. And if you don't, people will see right through that. So keep it real, be authentic, have fun, and everything Dave said.
Absolutely. And I was going to give tips. However, you took my tips, all both of you, because I definitely agree. Consistency is key. I think just showing up, whatever that looks like for you, whatever schedule that is, but showing up is really important. People will kind of look forward to seeing you and knowing, like, okay, you're going to be on live every Monday. That's something I'm going to look forward to, especially since we are still in the middle of a pandemic, kind of, sort of. It provides something positive. And then also, Dave mentioned something that I kind of follow. It's like, don't be afraid to fail. Like, just put yourself out there. There's no one size fits all, like we mentioned. Try something, and if it doesn't work, that's cool. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Like, just try it. If it works, fantastic. Keep it up.
Attention spans are short. They've already moved on.
Right. Yep. It's over.
Yeah, there's a guy, I was just, there's in the basketball realm, a creator who's built a media company, but it was a high school student who created an Instagram account, and he said his biggest hurdle was just starting, and he basically started broadcasting his opinions about the NBA. He had a bunch of people just criticize him because it wasn't well produced, because he's this kid who's sort of a little, unorganized. He said the biggest thing that got him to where he was today is he showed up the next day.
Yep.
He did not let it discourage him. He said, okay, that might have sucked. It might have been the most painful thing I've ever done, but he decided he was going to do it again. And his fans came back, his naysayers came back, and they saw him get better at his craft at using social media. They engaged him, and he's now built a media empire, foregoing college to pursue his media ambitions. And that is just one of the many stories we have of people just coming back and not being afraid to fail, as you mentioned, Shameka.
Yep, I absolutely love it. And I feel like it wouldn't be a personal branding on social media without providing social tags. I feel like that's supposed to be a thing. I probably should have introduced that in the beginning. So please provide how people can connect with you on social media. And I'm sure you might be sharing some more of these fabulous tips, as also just being your authentic true selves and living your lives on your social media.
On Twitter, I am at Britt O, Britto. Instagram at Brittany O'Hagan.
Twitter, I am at DEVSSETHI. On Instagram, I am SETHIDEV.
Awesome, thank you. And because I know you're dying to
And
know.
Dave, I don't know if I follow you on Instagram, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now.
I mean, I would say, don't do what I do. I guess do what I say, whatever that cliche is. I would love to connect with folks in the audience who got any value out of this, to connect on social media, Twitter, Instagram, etc. I think we're all reachable on all of those. And yeah, Shameka, thank you again for even giving us the opportunity to be a part of this.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. I absolutely enjoyed talking to you both. This was absolutely fabulous. Please put the claps in the hands in the chat, because this was fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'll plug myself just because I'm Shameka Plans on both Twitter and Instagram. I will follow both of you. And if anyone follows me, I will follow you back. But it was absolutely great discussing this. And I can't wait to like learn more and see what you all are up to and doing. So please do follow because I want to see what you're doing.
I got you, girl.
Yes.
Followed.
All right. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of summer getaway. Bye.
Thank you all.
Cheers. Take care.